We've reached Psalm 18 in our journey through the Psalms, and this psalm has become very, very special to me in a number of months now. I spent some time last autumn memorizing and meditating on this psalm, and just became overwhelmed with its power, with its drama, with its meaning. It's a very long psalm. It's 50 verses, the longest one we've come across so far. And it's set in a very clear historical context. It parallels 2 Samuel 22. It's almost a direct duplicate of what we have in that narrative. And the editor of Samuel has put it there almost at the end of David's life, as David looks back on his life and reflects on all the way that God has provided for him and delivered him from all his troubles and his enemies. So it's not just Saul he's got in mind, it's all the battles that David faced. And he looks back over his long and eventful life and says, through all of that, God was with me and God was faithful to me and God gave me the victory. It's full of action and drama. It's one of those psalms you almost wish someone like a Cecil B. DeMille or a Steven Spielberg would get their hands on and take the text of it and bring it to life and show the conflict that takes place and the way that God intervenes and gets involved in response to David's prayer. The psalm is interesting also in its structure. It's written in such a way, there are 6 sections, and the sections parallel each other. So the first and the last sections parallel, the second and the fifth, and the third and the fourth. So we have to see them in couplets, and that's how we're going to just work our way through this psalm in probably 3 short sections. So the first section is verses 1 to 3, and the last section is 46 to 50. And these 2 sections, which bookend this amazing psalm, are full of metaphors and descriptions and attributions to God, describing God in some wonderful ways. Look how in these verses David describes God. He calls him my strength, my rock, my fortress, my deliverer, my God, my rock, my shield, the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. And then in verse 36, my rock again and my salvation. 2 things I want you to notice very quickly there. One is the word my. It's a very small word, but a very important word. This God is not just some remote God out there. These are not just truths about God. These are truths about David's God. And David is in a covenant relationship with him. So he can claim these things that God is to him. He is my God. He's my Lord. He's my stronghold. And there are numerous, as I say, descriptions of God there. The one I want you briefly to notice is the term, he is my rock. That's a favorite of David's. He says it some 20 times throughout the Psalms, but he says it 5 times in this psalm alone. This psalm could be summed up as God being David's rock. It's a wonderful image. It has a number of possible connotations. Let me suggest a couple to you. One is it's a place of refuge where you can run in a time of danger. David often found himself in a rock, in a cave, or he found Saul in a cave on more than one occasion. And so a rock is a place of refuge to which you can run, in which you can find safety. But the rock also gives a picture in the scriptures of something solid on which you stand. The hymn writer puts it, on Christ the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. And of course Jesus teaches us that we must build our lives on his word, because not to do so is like a fool who builds his house on sand. To build our house on the word of God is to build it on the sure, solid foundation of the rock. And so David has great confidence in God because God is his rock, as well as all these other things he mentions in these opening and again in the closing verses. And that of course reminds us of one of the most loved hymns in the Christian church, written by Augustus Toplady, about God being a rock of refuge. It's an interesting story how the hymn came to be written. Toplady was out in the country and he got caught in a terrible storm, and he found refuge in a rock, in a cleft of a rock. And as he stood there waiting for the storm to pass and thinking it through and coming up with a spiritual analogy, he of course composed that lovely hymn that we sing often, Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. And the story goes that as he was forming that hymn in his head, he looked to the ground and he saw an old playing card that had been discarded by somebody else who'd been in that cleft. And so he took it, and on that he wrote the words for that beautiful hymn. And I trust as you reflect on this psalm, you can say that God is your God and that he is your rock of ages. And you have already come to him and said, let me hide myself in you. So when the storm of judgment comes, I'm safe because I'm hidden in the rock. I look forward to you joining me next time as we take another look at Psalm 18. The Lord bless you.